right, hello. Welcome to the Facing the Gates podcast. I am Bailey.
I'm Michael.
And I'm David.
And this week, we're talking about consciousness.
Ooh.
What does it mean? Why? Where? All right, so... sorry. That's a very professional opening. Sorry about that. That was terrible. How has consciousness come about? Is it something that is natural, that is like a byproduct of evolution, or does it require some sort of external cause like God? But before we get into consciousness, last week we were talking about morality. I just wanted to kind of touch base with you guys and kind of catch up and see if you have any thoughts from last week that have sunk in. Basically, we established that if you agree with the moral argument, which we pretty much all agree that morality is at least somewhat objective, which would be if we're going to put a meta-ethics stamp on it, it would be moral realism. So we all agree that there has to be some sort of objectivity to it, and I argued that you have to ground that objectivity in something, and it makes most sense to ground it in a being like God. So what have your thoughts been? Because I know you're stewing last week. Has that sunk in with you at all, Michael?
One of my things is I believe in that minus the like God part, due to my viewpoints. I believe there's always a right and a wrong, no matter what sector of life we look at. Even in animals, there's a right and a wrong. Because we're just packed animals with big brains. That's it.
Yeah.
So I think my views have kind of stayed similar to what they were. But, I'm always on the brink of teeter-tottering, so...
Yeah, but you have to have, like, a reason for it to be objective. You have to have something for it to be objective without it becoming arbitrary. So what is that source that you would ground it in, if not God?
Natural law. For every action has a positive and equal reaction. So if I do evil upon another, evil will be done upon me. I don't like evil being done upon me, so therefore I'm not going to do evil upon another unless I'm ready for that equal and opposite reaction.
So kind of like that classic law, eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth.
Yeah.
The code of Hammurabi.
Yeah. Take my eye, I'll take your eye. We're still all blind to the truth, but I got your eye.
What do you think, David?
About his statement, or just kind of...
Just in general.
In general, I kind of stick... I've just kind of been sticking by how... kind of what I said, where it's like, yeah, right now evolution, but if something else comes up, I'll be more than happy to look into that and see like how it fits, and if that would be just that one case, or if it may be a hybrid of the two, because I mean, evolution's not a perfect science. It's just an explanation of how we got here as we have comprehended so far.
Yeah. I don't know if, and I probably said this last week, but I don't think evolution can fully explain morality. It can explain some things, but like I said, it has to be objective, and when it comes to evolution, at least the mainstream form of it, Darwinian evolution, is not objective in any sense. It's kind of just
chaos.
It is chaotic, so how could something orderly come out of that chaotic sense?
Yeah, and I think just kind of our perception of morality still lays heavy in our culture, even if because like there might be the true morals, and we all kind of agree upon that. But in the viewpoint of your average person that's not really thinking too hard into it, they're just thinking about how their culture perceives stuff, and that can distort.
And also to tie in, our perception of chaos is arbitrary. Because how we drive in America, how we walk across streets and everything, that seems pretty orderly, right?
It depends.
Depends on which area.
But when you look at, say, India, have you ever watched...
No.
It is absolutely terrifying, but there's a method to the madness. There's order in their chaos. And you look in Britain, a lot of places don't have stop signs or red lights. You just kind of learn how to maneuver through what we would view as chaos, but they would view as normal.
Yeah.
So, I mean, even there, everything's objective. We all...
Subjective, you mean?
Yeah, my bad.
You're good.
But we all view through a skewed lens on how we perceive these things. Chaos, order, evil, good, all that. So...
Well, I mean, I guess I agree with you, sort of, but I think... I don't want to stay on this too long, but like when it comes to evolution, it seems like it is kind of just random. At least the way it's portrayed is that, at least the mainstream form, it seems like when scientists are talking about evolution, it's like, oh, it's just natural selection. That's what happens.
Yeah, things were just thrown out a wall and whatever stick stuck.
But it isn't natural selection in itself order. The strong shall survive. Those traits shall be passed because they were the best. Now, there are cases where random ass traits survive because they're recessive. But you want the strongest, fastest, smartest to lead your creature forward.
Yeah.
So it's all up in the fucking air.
Yeah, I don't know.
But beside that point... Let's move on to our next.
Yeah, let's move on to our actual topic. So before we actually get into it, how would you guys, without looking at our definition, how would you define consciousness?
To me,
as the human experience of consciousness.
Self-awareness. And self-awareness on a secular understanding. So, and also understanding of situations as a conscious being, how you're interjected into them and how you being put there leads you to a million other choices so you can make one choice. Because, and it may seem like some days we're just running through the motions, but we know what the motions are. We know what our moves are. We know how we move, why we move.
Mm-hmm.
Where something's more animalistic, you're just going what's going to feed you and protect you. So this move you make now might not feed you sooner, but you know it's the right move to make, or you know that this move will have a...
So consciousness is like a self-reflective kind of thing. Self-aware and self-reflective.
Self-awareness more so.
Yeah, okay.
Self-reflective, that's up for debate, but self-awareness definitely.
Yeah. What about you?
I'm pretty much in the same field. Mainly it's the kind of process in which you just identify that you are here. You are essentially living.
Mm-hmm.
So that self-awareness and your perception that you are aware of what you're doing is kind of consciousness.
Yeah.
So would animals be self-aware if they know they're living?
Probably.
Not to the same... Well, I mean, they might be self-aware, but they may not be conscious the way that humans are conscious, you know? So I'm just going to read off a definition via dictionary.com of consciousness, and we'll probably agree on it, but it would be consciousness is awareness of one's own existence, sensations, thoughts, surroundings, etc. So I was going to also add like deep introspective thought, the ability to compare various outcomes, observance of art, and awareness of moral decisions to this definition. So I mean, that's a pretty broad definition, but like that's a description of our experience of consciousness.
I'd say that's pretty fair. Because when you look at the animal world, you can find...
They might have bits and pieces of that, but they don't have it.
You can find an animal with every one of them except one.
Yeah.
So like you look at some birds, they can use tools, they can recognize themselves, recognize others, they can weigh out various outcomes, but they might not be able to appreciate, say, art or They might be able to appreciate art but not understand one of the others. So I'd say that's pretty fair.
Yeah, and even if like you want to say like, animals are aware of others, like yeah, they may be aware of others, but they may not be aware of the way others perceive them, and like the deep like implications that we have, and when we're thinking of. Like, basically, you can take any of these things, and you can probably put a surface level understanding in most animals, but to the level that we experience it is much deeper than animals, because otherwise you would have other animals competing with the human race. We are the only conscious we are the only conscious animals in that sense, basically.
We're the true apex predators. And also, not necessarily about perceiving others, but who those others are.
Mm-hmm.
To us, we know who the other people are. We can look on a list like that's all of them, whereas an animal will only broadly grasp that. So we can make a reflective decision like, okay, when I'm talking about this, these are the other people. Whereas when I'm talking about this, all of these people over here are the other people. If that makes any sense. Whereas an animal's just going to see them all as others.
Yeah. They're not going to have, like, the deep, complex thought of it. Like, they may not experience emotions the way that we do, or they may not consider weighing, like, outcomes, like which college they should go to or something. Like, they're not going to think about that deeply.
More abstract.
They're also not going to
ideas.
go to college.
I don't know. They might have some bird or gorilla college.
You were just playing the devil's
So I
advocate
guess
today, aren't you?
Kind of put simply, the idea to also kind of understand more abstract ideas, like for us, like college.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very abstract thought for just learning in general.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's just something that for animals you
Doesn't
have
exist.
ingrained or you naturally learn. Like, oh, use this rock to crack this nut.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, when you look at some animals, though, there is a hierarchy of knowledge.
Yeah,
Much
but
like with humans. And your college degree is nothing but a skill. So if you look at, say, monkeys, some are able to communicate better, some are able to work better, some are able to mate better.
yeah, I was just putting that kind of like in the abstract sense of, oh, we have this kind of guideline instead of just naturally working on it. We have kind of a very rigid framework that, in the grand scheme of things, might not make sense, but it teaches us those skills.
Yeah, because there are a lot of bullshit degrees. Don't forget that.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so I guess.
Sorry about that.
Sorry if you hear that.
Some
That's,
asshole revving his motor.
Probably with the squat.
I guess, and I kind of mentioned this earlier, but like I think the real question of this episode is, why are humans seemingly the only beings with this degree of consciousness, which is, I guess, in science and philosophy known as the problem of consciousness. What do you do with that? Where does it come from? So that's a big question. So I'm going to turn it over to you to answer, Michael. There you go. Here's
You gotta
60 seconds or less.
Oh shit! You put me on the spot.
I'm kidding. No, I mean, I just want to kind of get what, like, I mean, I know, like David mentioned last time, he's like, I have no fucking idea. But I mean, like, I just kind of want to know, like, what is your guys' educated guess as to how consciousness might have come about?
It might have came about on the self-reflection of, hey, me monkey, me take fruit from tree. Fruit make other tree. So me take this fruit, me no have fruit next year. That sounds so fucking stupid.
Yeah,
But it's the self-reflection upon your actions, upon the natural order of things. So if I cut this tree down to make me a home, this tree's not going to be here next year to have fruit.
Mm-hmm.
So therefore I will go hungry.
Well, I mean, that could apply to a lot of animals, though.
But is that not a stream of conscious? Because you are consciously aware of your actions and reactions upon the natural order of things.
Yeah, but that could apply to a lot of other animals. I guess what I'm getting at is, if you want to say,
But do they truly grasp it? Or is it more of an action reaction thing? Do they truly understand why that is versus it just is?
let me ask David before I answer. What do you think consciousness comes from, David? Because I'm gonna answer probably both of you the same way.
As you kind of noted, I'm not sure. I'm guessing just pure. With the glorious thing that we've thought up as evolution, just pure chaos, and somehow we're conscious. But it, as Michael said, it could be kind of a reaction of different little traits and tiny little dots. And like, oh, well, thinking's good.
Like connections within your environment.
And like for example, one thing that really, in the idea of evolution, that pushed like us to have bigger brains and be able to have kind of more little synapses and thought processes and stuff, is like the cooking of meat.
Mm-hmm.
Funny enough. So I guess, A, I don't truly know the answer, but B, the more kind of intricate parts of evolution, like growing the brain, larger brain, could possibly mean more ability to have more consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you think about it in the eyes of evolution, we didn't start just off the bat with full consciousness. We might perceive like, oh, our local surroundings, then this, then that. Then we start making art and appreciating it.
All right, go ahead.
But what good does that consciousness do for an animal?
Well, yeah, what is the evolutionary purpose of it?
It allows the kind of little pack of animals, the kind of species, to survive longer and also live longer.
But
so they can breed more.
Parrots live longer than us. They're not conscious.
That's kind of a broad statement.
Yeah.
In my opinion, able to understand your surroundings will lead you to a longer life.
Not necessarily. It could lead you to a shorter life.
On the simple understanding of how to allocate your resources. Because if you harvest everything here,
mm-hmm.
there's nothing next year. Absolutely nothing. You can destroy the earth in this section.
I mean, look at our tortoise. She'll go outside when it's nice and eat as much grass as she can. All the dandelions, all the little clovers and everything. She doesn't think about, oh, what about till later? Maybe I'll be hungry tomorrow. Nah, she just eats. She'll even eat stuff she's not supposed to eat.
Or even further than that, there's nothing left for the next generation of creatures you bring upon this world. And then once you realize that, you start to realize what creatures you need to make this whole area turn, which can kind of lead us why we went from hunter-gatherers to farmers. Because we know we have to be self-sufficient in returning those goods, returning the natural order to the area. But in doing so, we also realize we destroy the ecological economy of sorts.
Mm-hmm. So I guess I think my major question or problem with saying that evolution is like a big part of why we are conscious beings is I feel like we would see other conscious beings also by this time, because according to the theory of evolution, it's been millions of years that we've taken to evolve this level of consciousness. Surely other animals would have had equal opportunity and time to, like, why are there not, like, you know, like in Zelda, like there's different like species that are all conscious beings. Like, why do we not have other species that are like competing for the human race?
You eat the other ones.
Why is the human race the only race that is this level of consciousness after all this time? Because under that theory,
we have the greatest power of all. I can go to a store and buy something to kill any species in this world.
Well, I mean, I'm talking, yeah, in the present sense, yes. But how did it get to that point is what I'm asking.
We killed the Neanderthals. We fucked them and killed them.
Yeah.
The Neanderthals fucked and killed the species before them
Okay, but why don't we have like fish people?
because
they are not sustainable. There's no
Like
way to communicate like me and you do if we were a fish.
Not necessarily. They can. Dolphins use sonar.
That's intelligence. That could be a form of consciousness, but there's still that language barrier. There's still barriers to understanding one another.
Yeah.
So there's no true answer on whether they are conscious or not. We can take a look at them using tools or mating or passing a pufferfish to get high. We can only assume.
I mean, look at like octopuses. They can solve complex puzzles and escape.
But yet,
we don't truly understand how they work and how they think, because it's kind of the understanding how they work, how they think is way more complex than kind of our comprehension and our time allows us.
yeah, because we think of animals as simple beings.
I mean, yeah, human beings, we're kind of self-centered in that we're the highest order, the apex predator.
Because essentially we are, though.
Yeah. I mean,
But that's present terms.
Even in the past.
yeah.
We have survived for a reason. How many species have we killed through our own means?
I mean, one of the core things is
Yeah, but how many other species have killed other species for their own means, and why
Several,
have they
but-
not?
Who
Way
has
more than-
conquered them all? Who has conquered every continent? Who has conquered every endangered species? Homo sapiens. We have evolved to be the apex predator, essentially starting by need, but now by force.
Okay, so I wanted to. This is probably somewhat related, but not. Regarding consciousness, would you guys say that consciousness is derived from the brain, or do you think it is something else?
I don't know. I want to believe it's derived by the brain and all these little neurons fucking banging off each other and allowing me to say these words to you, to David. But there's a greater question because there's no way for us to fucking know. I can't go talk to a dolphin, see if he knows what the fuck he's talking about. I can't go talk to a gorilla. I can barely go talk to a Spanish lady at my job without using a Google Translate on the phone. So I genuinely do not know.
Yeah. What about you, David?
In that aspect, pretty much in the same boat, though I do lean more heavily towards there has to be some physical, natural cause behind this. But I mean, if someone can answer that big, great, unknown question of how it came, I'll be happy to listen.
So where do you stand?
Well, before I get into the next point, I wanted to I guess, kind of push back. If consciousness is in the brain, and if, like, I know you guys aren't firmly in that camp, but, like, if it were the case that consciousness resides in your brain and it's just a part of your mental faculties, I feel like that's kind of self-defeating because you are causing neurons to fire and you're pushing atoms in your brain to move on your own. Like that's not a natural process unless someone is controlling you.
Hold up. The body in itself. When you are sick, your body does things you do not realize. Your
Okay,
body,
that's different from
but your body is in itself.
thinking.
But it is thinking for you. It is self-conscious. Because if I'm sick, my body makes red blood cells because it knows there's a threat and it can perceive that.
Yeah.
And it can perceive the next move.
That's not a part of your consciousness, though.
Or is it?
That's a part of your
Your negative-
automatic, like, what's the word? It's a system. Autoimmune system. That's a part, like, that's an automatic system that just functions without you having to think about it.
But
When you're thinking about whether I'm gonna go to this college, or if I'm gonna drive here or I'm gonna bike here, like, that is a conscious thing that you're thinking about.
But you know about the placebo effect, right?
Yeah.
So if I think I'm going to feel better and I feel better, is that a conscious decision?
Depends. Because, I mean, like, hold on, say it one more time.
If I say I'm going to feel better and I start feeling better, is that a conscious decision to feel better?
It depends it depends on what kind of pain you're having. Like, if you're having an actual physical pain, you saying, I'm going to feel better, might not actually do anything. But if you're in emotional pain and you can kind of coach yourself mentally, then it might actually do something. So it just kind of depends on it.
I mean, even with physical pain, like in drug trials, they can be people have been fed sugar pills and notice an
I mean, the placebo effect is a thing, but how does that relate to consciousness?
Because it's you telling your body you're going to feel better, and your body telling itself it's going to feel better, essentially, because your brain is part of your body.
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, you are self-controlling in your own conscious.
Yeah, and
because you are only what your conscious makes. We only perceive pain as we perceive pain.
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, we can only consciously understand pain as we understand it. So therefore, is it a conscious decision if you tell your body, I'm not going to hurt anymore, and you don't hurt anymore? Or, I'm going to hurt and I'm going to feel like shit, and you start hurting and feel like shit. Is that a conscious decision?
There would have... I'm going to hold off on that. I would say you'd probably have to run a test and see, like, is this a placebo effect going on, or is there actually something at a chemical level, like, interacting
placebo
with this?
effect does react, your body does react chemically.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not as strong as, say, an actual drug, but there's still, your body is making a slight change as it's expecting.
Well, I mean, I guess that's the question, is like, can they detect a physical change after you say that, or is it just you just don't see anything change, but yet you feel different?
I know you two fellas haven't seen as much fucked up shit as I have.
Oh boy.
But I'm going to tone this down. I've seen 2 white women of the night. They weren't drinking water, but for PG-13 reasons, they were drinking water, and they thought it was vodka.
Uh-huh.
And they so happened to get drunk, but it was just water. Is that not telling yourself to tell your body that was alcohol when it was just water? Is that not a conscious decision to decide to be drunk?
That is a whole different realm of things.
But it's consciousness.
Because I don't know, though. I don't know if that would be... I mean, I'm not saying that consciousness is completely separate from the physical aspect. Obviously, it has some... It's like a Venn diagram, and it just kind of overlaps. Here's like the mental, and here's the physical, and like it overlaps. That's consciousness.
Yeah.
So in that regard, that would just be an area that is overlapping. But there are parts of your consciousness, your conscious experience, that are completely mental, that have no implications physically, and then there's other parts of your consciousness that are entirely physical.
See, to me that's kind of the beauty of this whole conscious idea.
Mm-hmm.
To me, your consciousness ties to your physical form more. So if you have a physical form and you can understand actions and reactions, therefore you have some form of consciousness and some form of, maybe not self-dialogue per se, because that seems more introspective,
Mm-hmm.
but more of an understanding of me touch fire, me burn. Or some shit like that, like a bug would think, oh, me fly, me find food.
Yeah.
That's a conscious decision in and of itself, to me personally.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
well, being self-aware of that, at least, would be a conscious experience.
Yeah, and I think these self-awareness, heck, it could have just came accidentally, but like, for example, as you said, like the observance of art and awareness of your moral decisions, it, especially as we were going with moral decisions, it kind of dictates how a society should run. It's kind of the basic laws.
And that's a really big deal that is just very integral to us.
And the comprehension of that itself would be kind of a net positive for your group to survive, so you're not just murdering each other. And now the art thing, it's a little more iffy, but kind of how I see it is kind of understanding the emotions of others in like probably the most abstract form we can understand it, which is art. So, and that can tie to kind of keeping the your kind of cultural group together and kind of keeping the human race more kind of bounded together instead of straying off the path, which leads to better survival, power in numbers. And yeah, the only thing is like kind of the self-awareness of your own existence, because that can be a deep dark spiral you can go through when you kind of recognize that about yourself. Because I mean, like you can, like, because I kind of have the feeling most people don't kind of grasp that until later, especially kind of about the same time one grasps their own mortality.
So when would you say you grasp that?
Varies person, but I guess it kind of, just like with my own mortality.
That's just a part of like maturing.
Yeah, when someone part of your family passes, or like pet you took care of passes, it's like, oh yeah, they died, okay, I'm gonna die.
Like, you're not gonna understand like your mortality at the age of 5 in the same way that you would at the age of 15.
I don't know.
I'm not saying that you wouldn't understand it at all. I'm saying you will have a deeper understanding the older you are.
You know what made me grasp
well, I guess it just varies person to person too.
And certain people mature and mentally grow faster than others.
And due to life, due to their body, it just varies. For some people, it could be 3 years old. For other people, it could be 25.
Yeah.
It's something we just don't know exactly why it happens. We just know it happens.
Speaking of which, you want to know when my concept of consciousness and morality started?
Tell me, Michael. Tell me the story.
All right, I was
Here we go.
about 5 or 6 years old, watching Animal Planet on channel 50. Yeah, it was 50.
Yep, because 51 was
Nick.
50,
How do I remember
was
that?
Cartoon Network, and 56 was Comedy Central.
And 49
was the History, and 27 was Discovery.
All right,
50.
anyway, let's get your story.
I was sitting there, and it was like that late night Animal Planet shit.
Yeah.
And like a sperm whale died. And all of a sudden it hit me. All my actions have reactions. Everything fucking matters that I do to somebody, and I'm going to fucking die. And I just start fucking crying, like just bawling my eyes out. And I'm sitting there and I'm grasping the fact that I have to make conscious decisions from that point on, and that I will die. And there's no way out of it.
That's pretty existential for a 5-year-old.
I spent 4 hours on my top bunk, and this motherfucker was asleep. I was bawling my eyes out.
Well, we usually had it on Game Show Network.
Yeah, because they showed titties. But, dude, I guess that's why this kind of hits to me a little harder.
Okay.
I've been thinking about this since I was 5 or 6 years old.
Yeah.
And so the understanding of consciousness has constantly been changing, and it's understanding that and breaking that through which the bars that I was held within for so long in a mental state. But from that point on, I've been having to understand conscious decisions and making them versus just falling on natural reaction.
Yeah.
Which we all still do.
Yeah.
Sometimes things just happen so quick you can't make that decision.
And
Someone punches you, you're going to punch back, pretty much.
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess just to kind of bring it back to a hardcore level. I don't know why I keep referencing that.
That's to be loved, not last resort.
Okay. So just to summarize, I know you guys aren't like 100% like this is exactly where consciousness comes from. I've figured it out, cracked the code. But like to remind everyone, what would you guys say is your position on where it comes from?
Oh shit.
And if you don't know, that's fine. You can say that. But like, if you're inclined to think it comes from a certain thing or certain whatever it may be.
Here's how I'll put mine. I'll say mine's at large, but at this current point in time, I feel it's a terrifying construct created by ourselves, created by our own brains, and it may tie into a more spiritual level.
Mm-hmm.
I can't prove that, and I don't know that. But when you study brains and how brains react, to me personally, there's a little bit of consciousness in anything that can react to something. Now, granted, not the same level of consciousness me and you share, because we're able to have this conversation and speak upon this topic.
Right.
And we don't know if birds have this. We don't know. So only thing I can vouch for is that humans are naturally conscious beings, at least in the circles that I'm in. And that it comes from the brain, which may tie into a higher spiritual level. At least in the circles that I'm in. I can't say every human's conscious, because I don't know.
All right. What
It's
about
kind
you?
of terrifying being agnostic, ain't it?
What about you, David?
Yeah, I mean, still not 100% sure, but kind of as I went through like a lot of the stuff, you can put in the idea of like, yeah, it would benefit like your survival. Now as I said, like the ideas of like observing art, like as you wanted to add, plus one's own existence. Not sure how quite that ties in, but like the art could be like an understanding the abstract emotions of one another. But one's own existence, I guess, could just be the natural chaos that is evolution. Being like, oh yeah, here's that one extra thing. Also, you're going to know you're going to die one day as well. And I guess maybe also understanding that, so you are more aware of your actions.
Mm-hmm.
But still not quite sure.
Art could be an interjection of one standing within the social structure they have created.
Yeah.
It could be what? Say that one more time.
It could, to break it down simply, art could be a way of showing, hey, I stand higher in this society because I understand this or I own this. So therefore, I am a better or stronger being than you. For lack of better terms.
Well, yeah, but what does that matter? How is that not arbitrary? What evolutionary purpose does that serve?
You rank higher than your other beings, so therefore you are stronger and you are smarter.
But if I like this kind of art and you like that kind of art, how does that make one of us better than the other?
Are those two circles part of two different circles or the same circle?
The same circle. For the purpose of the argument, let's just say you like rap, I like rock.
Well, which one ranks higher right now in the construct? It'd be hip-hop, rap. So therefore, I would naturally rank higher in the social hierarchy due to that construct we have created.
And especially like in the olden days where high society people love like super weird art or super, like at one point super realistic. It could be the difference from the possibility of mating with somebody and having a kid. Mm-hmm. Like, oh, you know this? Yeah, let's talk.
Or simple survival. Because if you're a high-ranking member of society, you don't have to fight in wars. You don't have to worry about food. What are you, a fucking peasant? But granted, you would stand higher in a rock-centered circle than I would. But I would stand higher in the general circle due to my grasping of the art. So therefore, that would lead to my survival. Back in the old days, it's weird to talk about humans now.
Yeah, but how would that lead to your survival? That would just lead to your acceptance in social circles.
Which could lead to my survival. By not having to fight for food. By not having to fight for resources. Not having to go fight in wars,
again,
which are pointless.
Art is a more modern invention.
Not necessarily.
Modern innovation. I mean, like...
What is modern?
I mean, like, since, like... I don't know, like the 1500s at least or so. Like at least since then that's been.
They found depictions of art older.
Well, I'm not saying that there hasn't been art. I'm saying it's become more of a mainstream thing.
Yeah.
Like there's music, like especially right now, there's like music, TV shows,
the more modern
books.
observations about art, and that's kind of an evolution of art in itself, because art was very simplistic and just was more descriptive.
Mm-hmm.
Now the kind of perceptions we have about art is very both emotionally attached, but also very much kind of understanding storytelling and comprehension.
Yeah.
And in that case, like as I said, with like the hoity-toity people, yeah, you have to understand that, because someone decides, oh, well, I'm gonna make this abstract thing, and y'all are going, I'm better than you.
I just don't know how you can
Because
make a strong case that like, because I like this art, therefore I'm going to survive longer than
it's
you.
kind of like
because, like I
idea
said,
of the
because it's a
apex.
modern thing.
It's not necessarily liking, it's understanding.
Yeah.
Because if I appreciate and understand the man who's writing history, therefore I am more likely to be put in the history. Therefore I am more likely to live on, to gain notoriety, to gain even infamy, and to be understood on a greater level, which would mean my name will carry on a lot longer to someone who said, you suck, or was just indifferent to it. Because at the end of the day, art is language. You look back at the oldest languages, they're nothing but figures drawn. To us, they look like little sketches, little drawings.
Mm-hmm.
To them, that could have been their, magnus opus, where it's like, this is it.
Their magnum opus.
Magnum opus, yes.
All right.
My brain is terrible because I really have to pee. But that will create my bloodline something to fall back on every time.
Yeah.
Because they're like, hey, my great granddaddy was writing this book, or my granddaddy fought in the war.
Yeah.
Which will bring back a speaking point, which will bring back history, which will mean my place is forever in this place.
And also, like, the idea of our hierarchies is very based on our kind of primitive ideas. Me strong, me top, and so, oh, well, you put thought into it. It's not a direct correlation, but those hierarchies, we're very much, oh, we want to be top, we got to be strong, we got to do this, we got to do that, do this. So it might not be exactly benefiting our survival, but it's just kind of how things have been done and how our brain reacts to a challenge.
I mean, look at how our brain reacts to what we're attracted to, for fuck's sake. We look for shit that has no meaning. Yet we create meaning in it. A fat ass, there's meaning in it.
Depends. Some
nice lips, there's no meaning in it.
Tattoos, piercings.
Physical qualities.
None of it
might
has.
not have meaning, but if there are more abstract mental qualities.
What meaning does that have? You're supposed to fuck, make a baby, and die.
But if you want to make a better baby, that's not gonna have genetic issues.
Well,
we could be like rabbits and just fuck so much that there's an overpopulation of us.
Well, on the don't have babies with problems. You need to talk to like the old royal families first off, because they had that all wrong. But I mean, and that could be that's like a whole other topic, and kind of like,
yeah, I think we're getting a little off topic. So
my bladder's talking for me.
Consciousness. That's what this episode's about. All right, so I'm just gonna bring it back. You basically, Michael's like, I'll start with David because I won't misrepresent him. He said it's probably evolution, but I'm not really sure.
Yeah, because as evolution has the possibility of explaining some things, but other things, not much. But that's kind of evolution. It doesn't explain everything.
But Michael said kind of the same thing, but also it may have some kind of spiritual interface with it. Yeah. Is that basically what you said?
Yeah, it's all just an arbitrary construct we created. Right. But there's probably, if my heart tells me the right thing, there's probably a spiritual correlation to it.
Okay.
More than likely. I could be fucking wrong. That's why I'm an agnostic.
All right. Well, I'm gonna bring the actual David. You said you want to find if there's something that could explain consciousness that wasn't evolution, I'd hear it. So here you go. Here's the explanation.
I'm all
Bitch.
ears.
All right. So I'm going to give you guys, this is actually a argument for God's existence called the argument from consciousness. And this particular formulation is from Peter Kreeft.
Peter.
So, Peter.
Peter.
Hey, Peter.
I like Peter.
Anyway, I should probably not bastardize Peter Kreeft. Sorry. Anyway, 1, we experience the universe as intelligible. This intelligibility means that the universe is graspable by intelligence. 2, either this intelligible universe and the finite minds so well suited to grasp it are the product of intelligence, or both intelligibility and intelligence are the product of blind chance. 3, not blind chance. 4, the conclusion. Therefore, this intelligible universe and the finite minds so well suited to grasp it are the products of intelligence. So, basically what that's saying is we are intelligent creatures. This can't happen by chance. It's more than likely that since we are intelligent creatures, it is probably better explained that an intelligent creature created other intelligent creatures. What do you guys think?
Interjection.
Here we go.
To have intelligence must be created.
Yeah.
To create intelligence, you must have intelligence. Who created that intelligence?
Oh, this is who created God, isn't it?
Not necessarily.
Well,
But couldn't that line of thinking be led?
for the sake of this argument, yes, you could say that. But if we're getting more specific into like the Judeo-Christian God, he's an uncreated God. So that doesn't work because he's eternal.
Time.
He is abstract and beyond time. If we're going off the moral argument, he's necessarily moral and necessarily intelligent and all-knowing. And based off of this is an intelligent being that created other intelligent beings.
But therefore, doesn't that heed way to that atheist view of where one intelligent being was created and therefore created other intelligent beings through blind chance, because therefore God himself was not created, but he happened upon blind chance upon our timeline, because there's no proof that he was created.
What part of uncreated God? Hold on.
But
how are you going to say it's blind chance that God exists?
Because you cannot create anything that cannot be created. Nothing can exist without being created.
Right.
Because at some point, there draws a line in some people's view where something must be created. I can't just look at the ground like there's going to be a car there without making the car. I can't look at the universe and think there's a planet there without the planet being created.
Mm-hmm.
So couldn't you see how someone...
So couldn't you apply that to God, basically, is what you're saying?
I'm not saying me personally, but I'm saying, couldn't you see how, say, an atheist...
I could see how someone would say that, and I've heard that objection, and they typically don't understand the uncreated God concept. I know it's complicated, and it's not easy to understand that something could be eternal, and I mean, like... Even if, and this is kind of tipping into the origins of the universe, which we'll talk about next week, by the way.
Maybe that's the point here.
There's going to be a two-parter next week on origins of the universe. Well, not next week. It'll be the week after, and this, whatever. 2 parts. We're going to talk about origins of the universe, but like, even under the, Big Bang Theory, you go all the way back to the singularity.
I hate that TV show.
We're not talking about that.
I know.
You can go all the way back to that and say this is what caused everything, but okay, what caused that? And you can still play that argument and keep going in either side of it. But the thing that the more philosophical God side of things is trying to get at is that God is the necessary moral source and intelligent source that is uncreated and eternal. If it were finite, if he were finite, then he would be contingent upon something else. But because he's not, he just is. I know that's like mind-blowing to think about, but that's the shtick.
Yeah.
Let me say something for the people at home. Please note, I do not necessarily believe what I'm saying. I'm saying it to get answers out of people, and that was a fucking good answer for his argument right there. Not that I believe it, but it's well thought out, well viewed.
Because kind of like what you were saying reminds me of, well, what Michael was saying reminds me a lot of Futurama, where Dr. Farnsworth and another professor, like, oh, Homo sapien, Homo erectus, what comes between that? Oh, what comes between that? What comes before that? And just that kind of back and forth of the infinite kind of word everything.
Infinite regress.
Yeah. Though
it was a monkey.
I find this one, just because of the or both intelligibility and intelligence are products of blind chance. Just how, especially how it's written, doesn't pull as strong of a like conciseness to me as say like last week's.
Mm-hmm. So you would object to the fact that it could happen by blind chance, basically.
Well, it's quite possible it could happen by blind chance. That's kind of evolution. It's blind chance.
Yeah.
You throw stuff at a wall, whatever survives, okay. Throw that stuff back at the wall, so on and so forth. That's very much a blind chance based on modifications.
Yeah.
Blind chance to whom?
I disagree on that, but I'll save that for the Origins of the Universe episode, because we should probably stay on the consciousness part. But what was your objection that you were going to say, like, before he started talking?
I just wanted to add in the fact that I don't necessarily believe what I'm saying, but I got to get answers out of people.
Oh, okay. I thought you were about to add something else.
No, that's exactly what I want to say, because that's the whole point of this thing. Let's get answers. Let's talk. Let's not just suck each other's dick like, oh yeah, that's so right, or that's so wrong.
Wow.
You know, let's just...
Well put, Michael.
Well, this one's kind of like the opposite of morality, because we all have a similar agreement, not necessarily the same, but similar agreements on morality, where this one's like, yeah, we vary a good little bit.
Yeah.
But that's the fun part.
At the end of the day, the beauty and the terrifying part of this is we can only view this through our own eyes.
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, it could all be by blind chance, or it could all be by higher powers reaching out and like, shoo, and fucking shit happens.
Yeah, but I don't... Okay.
And
if it happened by blind chance, it would be a very miraculously blind chance for the odds. I mean, do you know the odds of life and
very
complexity of our existence to have existed?
Do you know the chances of God existing? In the grand scheme of things, outside of a theistic viewpoint, when you talk to, say, an atheist or someone on the fence, the chances of either of those are equal and separate.
That's why you have to kind of take yourself out of the situation and say, okay, here's the naturalistic explanation, here's the supernatural explanation. Which one makes more sense of everything? And that's kind of what the whole point of these Arguments for God's Existence series of episodes that we're doing is to kind of bring out, like, here are the major existential questions that everyone has, and here's what the scientific community tries to do to answer it, and here's what the religious community tries to do to answer it, and which one makes more sense and which one's more parsimonious.
Yeah, and
I love shit like that.
The play, the kind of the theistic side might have a little easier chance to explain it, because there is that answer where scientific is just trying to figure out everything with our comprehension. So
we could do a whole episode on, like,
so it's quite
just science being just trying to explain everything.
Yeah, just on an anti-theist viewpoint.
Because these are like very philosophical questions that I don't think science can necessarily explain.
As we talked before, I mean, heck, early scientists were part of like the Catholic Church and stuff. And like religion and science don't have to fight.
Yeah, I agree.
Just kith, make love.
I mean, not necessarily. There's always a good it's a good thing to have healthy arguments.
It's a
and
Venn
healthy
diagram.
Yeah.
There's sometimes an overlap and sometimes they're separate.
Yeah, like we're
Here's-
separate, but sometimes we overlap.
Yeah.
Here's the
so-
hyper side. Here's the hyper side of this, and everything's just kind of there.
What is it?
You just gotta find
Okay.
it.
That was your sound effect for the Venn diagram coming together, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I was thinking of how to
I
explain
forget
that
there's
for the
not a
people.
camera here.
I was trying to figure out what is he doing. All right.
But yeah, it's mainly like because it is written in a deistic point of view,
Right.
what he's said, and just especially the addition or both intelligibility and intelligence are products of blind chance. Just that possibility.
Mm-hmm.
If he had a way to explain, like, yeah, there's
Why it's not blind chance.
yeah, if
Yeah.
he had a like
Stay tuned for next week when I do that. No,
Yeah.
just
if there was like more written about that,
yeah.
it would either steer, well, it could have two things. It could steer people away or it could steer people closer. It just depends on what he would have done to it.
Mm-hmm.
And because, I mean, the possibility of blind chance for anything is still, even if it's small, it's that possibility. It's like why people buy lottery tickets. That possibility.
Yeah. I don't know why they would do that.
See, and that's the beauty of this. It doesn't matter what any of our views point is, as long as we have an honest, open viewpoint and we're never, assholes about it.
Yeah.
Because
David's
at the end of the day,
Tenements.
we can believe that we know, but at the end we truly don't know. We just put our faith into something and we hope the best happens. And I think we all can pretty much agree there.
Mm-hmm.
Because no matter what, there's never going to be a definitive answer until we're dead. And that's the beauty of
You're
it.
gonna like some of the episodes I have planned.
Yeah.
I think about this. I'm like, man, I want to talk about this, but I have a whole episode planned for that, so I'm not gonna dip my toes into that water quite yet.
And this is why I love having these podcasts and why I love hopefully having people reach out and ask these questions, or even if they don't ask us, ask their friends, ask themselves first and foremost.
Mm-hmm.
Because only thing that matters is you have a true, honest opinion, and you have a structured reason why you
And you
believe
think
that.
it out. Like, it's not just like, oh well, somebody told me this, so it makes sense.
And there's nothing wrong with not knowing,
Yeah.
because I don't know a lot of shit.
Yeah.
But Bailey respects me because I'm honest
guess.
about it,
I guess so.
and I lead my
Sometimes.
way with trying to understand and wanting to comprehend, but not knowing a lot of the time. And same with David, he respects my viewpoints, even if I don't have a fucking answer, because I'm honest about it,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm willing to have this conversation and willing to put my 2 cents or play devil's advocate for either of you fuckers, because I've done both now
Yeah.
pretty fairly.
Yeah.
This episode seems more like a Bully Bailey episode.
Yeah. I know.
I mean, with the, ooh,
But David's still a fucking atheist.
yeah. I forget which episode, but I was playing like devil's advocate for my own thought process. But
It was probably. I think it was the free will one.
yeah. For like the atheist side.
Yeah. All right. Well,
Is there a next point we need to go to?
that was pretty much it. Actually, that was. I know I
It's
didn't have a
short
whole
as-
lot for this one, but
I hope-
we've discussed. I think. Hopefully, it wasn't like a hot mess of a discussion, because I know we went all over the place,
But sometimes those are what are needed in this world.
hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Still,
Sometimes we got to get past, the surface level and get to the nitty gritty and ask these questions and fucking argue with each other and figure out where we truly stand. Because one of us might decide, hey, yo, let's say Bailey, hey, I have a question about this because this point was brought up. Or I might be like, hey, both these people, David and Bailey, brought these points up. Let me think about it.
Yeah.
Or David might be like, maybe I'm not such a filthy fucking atheist. But that's the beauty of this.
Yeah.
And I hope everyone who listens kind of has that same idealism and thought process.
yeah,
And it's just a fucking nice time to have.
yeah, it's been nice. Yeah, so let us know if you guys have any thoughts on this episode. Hit us up on our social media at Facing the Gates on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Or if you want to send us an email at facingthegatespod@gmail.com. You can be maybe the first person to send us an email, because no one sent us an email yet.
Yeah,
Very
'cause
sad.
It's not 2006, but tweet us, motherfuckers.
But listen,
Or like send us links to like books or like
Memes.
discussions or something.
Send us
well-
links to anything. I mean, I'll take anything.
yeah,
Because I'd like to, like, if someone has like, oh, well, I read this and it helped explain it to me, I'd love to read it.
yeah,
Or hell, even if you know any of us personally, shoot us a message.
yeah. Reach
Ask
out.
a question.
Yeah,
You don't have to have, if it's a question you want answered on the podcast, we don't have to have a name to say.
yeah.
We just,
we just want to try and like involve the listeners, if anyone's listening.
Love
Just yeah. So I mean, we don't want it to just be like us having these conversations. Like obviously there's a point to us having these conversations, but the other point is for you to have them also, and to interact with us and to interact with other people
yeah.
on these kind of topics. So
And we're all in this together, so be nice to each other.
yeah,
All
don't
in
be a
this
dick.
together.
Yeah, that's my first rule.
Yeah.
David is a 101. Don't be a dick.
The Church of David. Don't be a dick.
I'm not starting a church.
See, now you know how it feels.
Yeah.
All right.
I
Well-
still want to start not necessarily a church, but a house of open talk and understanding, and maybe even a little worship.
Michael's house of wholesome chats.
Yeah, let's talk about it.
It's just a little coffee house in like this seedy part of town.
But no coffee, just tea,
Coffee's not good.
maybe a little weed,
Just a therapy session.
maybe a bottle of whiskey for when things get really tough.
All right, we need to end this episode. Yeah, thank you guys so much for listening, and get in contact and tell us what you thought about this episode. That's all I got. What do you guys got? Anything?
That's really all I got. Just reach out, man. Or even if you don't reach out, have these honest conversations with yourself, with others you love and care about, and just have a better understanding of yourself first and foremost, because that's what matters the most in this world. We can only view light through our eyes. So understand yourself, your surroundings, and how you affect the world, and how the world affects you. What about you, atheist?
I mean, yeah, pretty much the same thing. And love you guys. Be nice to each other. Take care.
Yeah.
We'll see you next week.
All right.
See
I'll see you next week. Thanks for listening.
Mwah.